The noon train screamed across the desert like a dying beast, its whistle cutting through the dry air of a forgotten western town. The dust hadn't even settled when she realized she'd been left behind. Her hands trembled as she clutched the squirming baby to her chest. The bundle was wrapped in a grey wool blanket, stained heavy, warm with life. The child cried, a desperate, high-pitched sound that echoed through the emptiness. The train was gone. She ran to the edge of the platform, calling out, "Wait, please!" But only the wind answered back. The baby wailed louder. She looked down at its face, soft, red, furious at the world, and a single note pinned to the blanket caught her eye. She tore it open with shaking fingers. "For whoever still has a heart." Her eyes widened. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Whoever had handed her this child had vanished into the smoke of the departing train. She was left with nothing but a baby. And no name. The station was silent now. The telegraph machine ticked somewhere inside, clicking out messages to places she'd never see. A dog barked in the distance, then quieted. The town beyond the tracks looked like a mirage. 2 saloons, a blacksmith and a general store. She sank onto the wooden bench, holding the baby tighter. The wind tore through her thin dress, biting her skin. Her face was streaked with sweat and tears. She didn't even know her own name anymore. A shadow moved. She looked up. A man stood at the far end of the platform, tall, broad-shouldered, hat pulled low. His coat was long, dusty from the trail. A revolver hung heavy at his hip. His boots were silent against the planks as he walked toward her. The baby cried again. He stopped a few feet away, his face hidden in shadow. "You left behind?" he asked, voice low, calm, like thunder from far away. She swallowed hard. "The train. Someone put the baby in my arms, said they'd be right back. Then the whistle blew, and they were gone." The man glanced toward the fading horizon, where the last echo of the train had disappeared. "You got a name?" Her throat tightened. "Not one that matters." He nodded once, slow. The wind lifted the brim of his hat, just enough for her to see his eyes, cold grey like steel under morning frost. He looked at the baby again. "You can't stay out here," he said. "Station closes at sundown. Coyotes come down from the ridge after dark. I've got nowhere to go." He looked down the empty road leading west, the sun bleeding into the desert. "Then you best follow me." She hesitated. "Why?" He looked back at her, eyes unreadable. "'Cause I don't leave people for dead." She rose to her feet, the baby still pressed against her chest. The man turned, his boots crunching in the dirt, and started down the road. She followed. The town ahead was small, barely more than a handful of buildings holding their breath. Folks on porches stared as they passed, whispering to one another. The sight of a strange woman carrying a child beside a lone cowboy stirred the kind of gossip that lingered for years. When they reached the livery, he stopped. "You hungry?" She nodded. He pointed toward a small diner across the street. "They serve beans and bread till 6. She hesitated. "You're not coming." He shook his head. "Don't talk much indoors." She stared at him, unsure what to make of that. Then she crossed the street, the baby fussing softly against her shoulder. Inside, the heat and smell of coffee wrapped around her like a blanket. The owner, a broad woman with kind eyes, looked her up and down. "You new in town, honey?" She managed a small nod. "Got a name?" Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. The woman's expression softened. "Don't matter, sugar, you sit. I'll bring you a plate." She sat in the corner, rocking the baby, staring out the window where the cowboy leaned against a post, arms crossed, watching the sunset. He hadn't said more than 20 words, but something about him, his stillness, the way he looked at things, made her feel oddly safe. When she finished eating, she stepped outside. The air was cooling now, the desert sky turning violet. The cowboy hadn't moved. "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded once. "Name's Mason." "Mason," she repeated. It sounded solid, dependable. He gestured toward the edge of town. "I got a small cabin about a mile north. Ain't much, but it's dry. Safer than the streets." She hesitated again, holding the baby close. "Why help me?" He looked at her long and hard before answering. "You remind me of someone who didn't get help when she needed it." That night, under a sky of 1,000 stars, Mason lit a fire in his small cabin. She sat near it, feeding the baby from a bottle the storekeeper had given her. The light flickered across her tired face, the warmth finally easing the fear that had clung to her since the train left. Mason sat across from her, silent as stone. After a long while she asked, "Who was she? The one who didn't get help?" He looked into the fire. "My wife." Her eyes widened. "She died on the trail," he said softly. "Winter storm caught us near the pass. I couldn't save her." The flames cracked. Outside, the wind howled through the valley. She said nothing. There was nothing to say. When the baby cried, Mason rose slowly and took him in his arms. His hands were rough, scarred, but gentle. The child quieted almost instantly. He looked at her, something soft flickering behind his cold eyes. "You don't got a name, do you?" She shook her head. "Not anymore. The one I had belonged to someone who's gone." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Names got power. Without one, you drift." Like tumbleweed, she looked at him, waiting. He stared into the fire. "Then I reckon you need a name." Her breath caught. He met her gaze. "You'll be Anna Mason." She blinked. "Mason?" He nodded. "You and the little one. Can't have the sheriff asking questions." She wanted to protest, but something about the sound of it, Anna Mason, felt right, like it had been waiting for her all along. That night she slept under a roof for the first time in weeks. The baby lay beside her, breathing softly. For once, the silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. In the morning, Mason was already outside, saddling his horse. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Into town. Need to see the sheriff." Her heart lurched. "Why?" "To put your name in the town ledger." She froze. "Why would you?" He looked at her with that quiet strength again. "'Cause you ain't a ghost no more." By sundown, word had spread through Dry Creek that Mason, the silent cowboy, who never spoke unless he had to, had brought home a wife and child. When the sheriff came by that evening, Mason met him at the porch. "She's mine," Mason said simply. "Anna Mason, you write that down." The sheriff eyed him, then the woman standing behind him with the baby. "You sure, Mason? This ain't something you undo easy." Mason's jaw tightened. "I'm sure." The sheriff tipped his hat. "Then I wish you luck." After he left, Anna stepped closer. "Why'd you do that?" Mason looked out toward the setting sun. "Because you needed a name. And I needed a reason." Tears welled in her eyes. "You don't even know me." He turned to her, his gray eyes softening for the first time. "Don't need to. Sometimes the West don't give you time to think about things proper. You just do what's right." The baby cried again, and Anna smiled through her tears. Mason took the child, his rough hands gentle as he rocked him. From that day on, they worked side by side. She helped patch the roof, cooked simple meals, tended the garden. He rode out at dawn, hunted, fixed fences. The baby grew stronger, his laughter filling the cabin. And though Mason still spoke few words, the silence between them was no longer empty. It was full of meaning. Weeks turned into months. One evening, a storm rolled over Dry Creek. Thunder shook the earth. Lightning split the sky. Anna stood at the doorway, holding the baby close as Mason rode in, drenched in rain. She ran to him. "I thought you wouldn't come back." He took off his hat, water dripping from the brim. "You think I'd leave my family out here alone?" Family. The word hit her heart like a shot. He stepped closer, touched her cheek. "You ain't the woman who was left at the station anymore. You got a name, a home, and a place beside me." She looked up at him, tears mixing with the rain. "And you? What do you have?" He smiled faintly. "Peace. Took a long time to find it." Outside, the storm raged on, but inside that little cabin it was quiet, warm and alive. They said in Dry Creek that Mason changed after that day. The silent cowboy spoke more, laughed sometimes, even went to church on Sundays. Folks called him lucky, but he'd tell them luck had nothing to do with it. It was the woman left at the train station with a baby and no name, the one he called Anna Mason, who'd given him something worth living for. And every time the train whistle blew in the distance, she'd hold the baby close and smile. Because once upon a time, she had been nobody, until the silent cowboy said, "You do now."